importance of being able to have a trade, create equity, that diversity, equality, and inclusion, particularly on public projects, business projects, construction. There is a true leader in this industry, CD Moody, David Moody, who's here today, to give us insight on how important having a seat at the table, being able to manage a seat, create a table, and for those in trades and industries, transportations, areas of growth, places where public finance are used, even where all the public good, these buildings are constructed by men, not as often as we'd like, not as often as needed, but like CD Moody. Welcome to Seat at the Table.
Thanks so much for having me, and I'm really honored to be here.
Well, you know, you're one of the most professional, kind building moguls that I know in the business. In all the time that you've been here, you've always been kind. So, and I think that just goes with the Moody brand at the end of the day. The entire family, brother, obviously classmate of mine,
Yep.
just kind people, just, you know, for society. But it's important when you think of contract compliance and you think of airports, you think of stadiums. And if there wasn't a contract compliance concept, if Maynard Jackson had not created such an office, what and where would we be, and how important is contract compliance and our participation in a diversity and inclusion and equitable position important to our community?
Well, I wouldn't be in business today, or definitely not the level I am, because you got to think about it. Until Maynard did what he did, I think minority contractors or minority businesses in general might have got 2, 3, 4% of the work. So clients and folks were using the contractors they were always used to working with. So, you know, construction is one of those industries where you got to get experience. You can't just start off building, you know, a multi-million-dollar project. You got to, you know, learn and be taken under people's belt and get experience. So if Maynard had never done what he did, very few of us would be in business today, because we never would have got a seat at the table. We never just would have got a chance. And I tell people all the time, Maynard didn't guarantee you success. He didn't guarantee you would make money. What Maynard guaranteed was you would get an opportunity, and it's up to you what you do with the opportunity. So Maynard provided people a chance to get a shot at it, and then it was up to us what we did with it.
So when you think about that, many people don't have any idea, particularly the numbers. When you say we were getting 1% of what type of number?
I don't know the historical data. Rodney Strong would be the person who could give you that exact number. I got you.
But I mean, like today, if you're
let's say like today, let's just say, you know, maybe let's just say $5 billion worth of work's being done in the city. Minority contractors might have been getting 5 million of that, maybe. Yeah, so that should kind of tell you. I mean, it was slim and none. I mean, it just didn't happen. I mean, you got to think about it, especially here in the South, but it was the same in the North. It just wasn't as blatant. But, you know, we're living in Jim Crow and segregation. So African-American firms, women firms, they just weren't even getting the opportunity, period. So when you got companies that got 50 to 100 years head start on you, we're never going to catch up with them anyway. At least now we're getting opportunities in the construction industry. But what I'm excited about is the new industries like technology and things like that, where a lot of people of color and females are getting in on the ground floor, and they'll be able to grow at that same leaps and bounds, hopefully. But construction will never catch up with the contractors who got a 100-year head start on us. But at least with Maynard, we got a chance to get in the game.
So when you say get in the game for a young person, or even a person just wanting to understand construction as a whole, in order to get on a project like the airport, Maynard's contract compliance requires what? Because most people have no clue.
Well, first of all, you had to get certified by the contract compliance, which means, and they're very strict about that, which I really appreciate. I mean, they had to come out and see your office, see your operation. They wanted to make sure you were real, because you got to remember, you know, if people are basically gaming the system, it hurts all of us who want to be real. So the city of Atlanta does a really good job of certifying companies, making sure you're a real company, and when you get on a project, you actually have to perform with your people and be a part. There's no pass-throughs, and that's what they really work. So they take you through a lot. You got to turn in financial documents. There's a lot of things you got to turn in to get certified.
Right. Once you're certified, what does that give you the opportunity to be a part of? So say, for example, the airport and individuals are there, or a Georgia Dome where they're building, or even a opportunity. I was proud to see the sign outside of the Atlanta History Center. What does that mean? What kind of projects are those for African-American contractors like yourself?
Well, what ends up happening, just so everybody's clear, one of the things the city does extremely well is that even though, like, I might be a joint venture partner as the general contractor, regardless of the percentage I am of that partnership, we still got to get 35 to 40% of minority and female businesses in the subcontractor level. So a good example, that Maynard Jackson Terminal was $1 billion. We did 40% in minority participation. So we still had 400 million go to minority subs, vendors, and female businesses. Same thing on the dome. So that money that they're talking about, it doesn't just go to a couple of general contractors. We still have to get a large percentage in the subcontractor market. And that's where the real opportunities come for businesses that are smaller. They can build relationships. So it works extremely well. It's not just a couple of people getting opportunities. There is a large group of people getting opportunities. And many of them names you'll never know because they're in the subcontractor field. A lot of them just, you know, aren't out there out front, but there are a lot of businesses doing really well in the construction industry of color.
Now, would you recommend construction for young brothers and sisters to really think about getting into this business?
I highly recommend it, but I only recommend it if it's something that you truly want to do. This is not an industry, but no business is a business to get into if it's not what you want, because you got to be willing to grind. You got to be willing to suffer through these hard times. But I will say this, one of the things that really bothers me about our public school system, remember we used to have vocational ed, where a person wanted to be a mechanic, carpenter, and we pretty much have gotten rid of that. And it's unfortunate that we make people who want to work with their hands or skilled trade, and college isn't for everybody. I mean, I have folks who finished high school, went to trade school, and they make six figures because I can't build anything. I mean, so it's the skilled crafts people. So this is it's a fantastic field. I hope more of us will get into it as craftspeople and become project managers, superintendents, and hopefully a lot more become business owners. But I tell everybody, being an entrepreneur is not for the faint at heart. I mean, I've been making payroll for 32 years, and there's a lot of stress and wear and tear being responsible for other people like that, because they're counting on you to make good decisions and have that payroll ready every 2 weeks, and sometimes once a week.
So can you describe your growth? Like in over the 32 years, year 5, year 10, what did you grow and learn about yourself, and how did you and business learn together?
Well, I think one of the first things I learned was how little I knew about business. And, you know, I had to finish Morehouse, and then I went to Howard and got my degree in architecture and started work with Bechtel Power Corporation. So I thought having a degree in architecture and all that, you know, I knew it all. 31 years old when I went in business for myself, but I learned how much more it was about business, because you got to think about it. Most people who become entrepreneurs have never been a vice president of a company, never been a president of a company. So we aren't exposed to half the things we need to be exposed to. But more importantly, my wife and I were broke. We had 2 little kids. There was a period for over a year. We didn't know how we were going to pay our house note every month. So we actually had to write to the mortgage company, tell them, we were really struggling. Would they cut our payment a couple $100 a month? They did. I wrote the credit card people because we had ran them up and worked to deal with everybody, but we kept our word. So I always try and let people understand, don't look at what you see now, because that journey could be totally different. It was a lot of long nights, getting up at 3:30 in the morning, pacing the floor, wondering how we were going to make ends meet. The other thing is, I'm in the business, we eat what we kill. So we're always hunting. So when people, when a project's finished, that client might not build another project again. So we're constantly on the hunt. So our business, went through a lot of different stages of fear, growth, fear again, recession, then Great Recession. Now, Corona. So it goes through a lot of different changes. And, I was just really blessed. My wife always supported me in this. In fact, we were struggling so that she went back to school and became a registered nurse so we could have a steady income, became a hospice nurse. But our kids were 3 and 2. So I was braiding hair of my daughter, trying to get my son ready so she could be on the floor. Those 2 years she was in nursing school, becoming an RN. Those were some rough 2 years. I think that was tougher than building a business, trying to navigate and all that. So we're very thankful for that. But our business has gone through a lot of different stages.
So why don't we check out your video? No, you got
Sure.
My grandfather came to America in 1901 because he believed he could get an education. So that's really where I get my inspiration. My parents mean a lot to me in my career, mainly because my parents told me I could do whatever I wanted to do. So my parents gave me the support to go for it. But what really, I think, changed my life, when I started my business, I had 2 little children and a wife, and I knew I couldn't fail. But every day I came home and I looked at my children's eyes and my wife's eyes, I knew I had to keep going. If I had never received one award, I still would be doing what I do. The awards are great, don't get me wrong, but that's not why I do it. I make sure I give back. I've always given back, and I work real hard to do it the right way. And I'm honored by the awards, but if I never get another award, I'm fine. And if I hadn't gotten any awards, I'd still be doing what I'm doing. When you're an entrepreneur, it is 24/7. You try and hope that you can find projects that are meaningful. I love buildings that are education or culture because I think it's great to build things that children or college students are learning their craft, learning their skill, that they're going to do something incredible. Construction means to me, someone believes enough in me to take their dream and make it a reality. We've been in business for 31 years and we're just getting warmed up.
We're just getting warmed up. That's great, man.
Yeah, it's special. It's funny. I was 31 when I started. I'm 64 now. And it went like a blink of an eye too.
But you say give back. I know that. I've seen it. It's real. But why? Why is that so important to you?
For a number of reasons. There's a couple of things that are very important to me. My grandfather came to America in 1901. He came from British Honduras, which is now Belize. He was 17 years old, and a Black man couldn't go past 6th grade in British Honduras. He wanted an education so bad that he left everyone, his family didn't know anyone. And he worked his way over on a banana boat to New Orleans. And he knew he was coming to Jim Crow laws and segregation, but he wanted an education so bad that he risked his life for that. And he ended up finishing at the University of New Orleans, University of New Orleans, which is now Dillard, or I think it's now Dillard. And he met my grandmother. They had 8 children, lived in a shotgun house in Baton Rouge, never owned a car, got indoor plumbing in the 40s, but he raised 8 kids who all got advanced degrees. And he taught me so much because education meant everything to him. And that's why my wife and I give, scholarships and stuff. But the other thing that's very important to me, I'm very public with this. I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, and I didn't say anything about it for decades. But I was truly traumatized from it. It really impacted my life. So I speak up a lot to help people turn trauma into triumph. I speak up a lot about anxiety, panic attacks, and PTSD, because so many people are suffering from different traumas. And so I want people to understand that, when you see my success in a business person, understand the journey I've been through and realize you can do it too. Because there's so many people who are hurting, who feel helpless because they feel damaged and, they don't have a chance. So I really speak up because when I finally started dealing with this in 92, I had a complete nervous breakdown, but I couldn't tell anyone. My business was only 4 years old and I suffered in silence. And there was nobody who really talked about what it's like to go through anxiety and being a survivor of a childhood trauma like that. And I don't want anybody to suffer in silence. I don't want anybody to feel they're alone. And I just really want to hopefully continue to inspire people that we all have a story. And sometimes, they're bad stories, but it doesn't have to be the end of our story. We can still write an incredible story. So that's, to me, besides giving of my time and money to organizations or colleges, the other thing that's really important, especially as I age, is try and help as many people turn trauma into triumph, because we have too many of us who have given up because they just feel they're damaged goods, and they're not damaged goods. We're not damaged, we're good. So Munson, that's why I do what I do, man.
Well, you wrote a book on that, right?
Yep. I wrote a book called Fighting Through the Fear.
There?
Excuse me?
You got a copy of the book there?
Man, you know what? I should have had one ready, but it's Fighting Through the Fear, My Journey of Healing from Childhood Sexual Abuse. You can get it at moodyspeaks.com, or you can get it on Kindle or paperback at Amazon. But I'm really honored to have written that book. I only speak a little bit about the sexual abuse, but I speak more about overcoming trauma, building a business, what it was like to build a business. I mean, I even talk about turning down one of the greatest basketball players of all time. He was going to invest in my business in 1991. And at the last minute, I turned him down because I said, he's the greatest in basketball, but I got to know if I could do this on my own. And he's really huge now. And there's a part of me that goes, damn, I should have took it. I could have been part owner of a team and built all of Nike, but I just had to know what could I do on my own. So because my self-esteem was kind of shattered because what had happened to me as a child, I faked pretty well like it wasn't. And I just needed to know, it's never been about money. I just had to know, what could I do on my own?
So when you think about trauma and you think about Black businesses not having the opportunity to participate, and then you're sitting there trying to build a business in a very racist environment, or an environment where they're not used to having leaders, they're not used to having educated Black men show up with the professionalism. How would you recommend that people take their adversity and stay dramatic and professional and understand that that's just part of growth?
It's unfortunate that we even have to live like that, but it's true. That's a great thing, because even today, there are times I get really frustrated because I still get some questions asked of me that I know if I didn't have my skin color, I wouldn't get some of the questions asked of me. I mean, I've had people say, do you think you guys are capable? I mean, it's like I constantly still have to prove myself. And our company is probably 85% African-American employees and women. And it's tough. My daughter's in the business and she's running her first project. And I told her, I said, dear, it's going to be twice as hard for her because you're a female and Black, but you can't give up. So I think back to my grandfather. I think to my mother's mother, who they were sharecroppers in Social Circle, Georgia. And in 1937, they part of the Great Migration to Chicago. That's how I ended up in the North. And the stories my grandmother would tell me until she passed in 92, at 97, about how they always, no matter how great the crops were, they always owed that man money, but they always had a good spirit to keep going, keep trying. So for me, there have been times I've thought about giving it up. I was like, man, I'm just tired of it. I get tired of it. But then I let those people win who want us to stop. And I also know that what I do is bigger than me. I represent every person of color that comes behind me, every woman who comes behind me, especially women of color, that if I quit, I just feed into, we couldn't make it. So, my biggest thing was I just wanted to make it. It's never been about money. I just wanted to show we could make it.
So, but it was a touchy subject. Most men, particularly African-American men, will not be talking about sexual trauma. They clearly would not be talking about how to heal from sexual trauma, obviously hide the trauma, ignore it, let it fester. What did you learn, and what would you say to someone who literally is having to start that journey? Obviously read the book,
Right.
but what else would you suggest, or even the family members that know that, because oftentimes for us, it's in the house.
Right.
We're all just not addressing it properly. We're not processing it. We never get to treatment.
That's why I speak up about it, because 1 in 10 people will be sexually abused before the age of 18. 90% of predators is someone in the family or close to the family. There's an estimated 42 million survivors just in the United States. And unfortunately, too many people take destructive lifestyle to cover that pain. And I understand that. For me, mine was just trying to stay busy and just trying to bury it. But not everybody's that fortunate to kind of keep moving, and they're just really struggling. Since I started speaking up publicly 6 years ago, it's amazing how many men have come to me and said thank you, because they've been dealing with it. I mean, it was 26 years before I told my wife, and it was 40 years before I spoke publicly, because it's a very embarrassing thing. I'm a heterosexual male, and I'm like, how do I say that I let an adult male have, sexual abuse me? So there was always that fear of what would people think. And that's why survivors are often quiet, because the stigma, the embarrassment. So I speak up because I don't want people to live like that. I want survivors to be more than just survivors. I want them to thrive. I want them to know, hey, we can beat this, we can do this, and get the therapy you need, get the help you need. Don't be ashamed. But most importantly, you are not alone on this journey. And that's why I speak up, because I was so alone in my journey. And that's a horrible place to be. If it hadn't been for my wife, I just don't know if I could have got through it, because I was really broken from it, because I had buried his soul. When I finally said those words, because I was going to die with those words, I was never going to say it. And when I finally told my wife in 92, it was like a pressure cooker had been released, and my body just went through all kinds of changes. I had muscle tremors, uncontrollable crying, panic attack. I mean, I just fell apart. But my wife and God put me together. We won the Olympic Stadium project. They don't realize how bad a shape I was in emotionally doing these presentations and going to meetings. I go home and fall out, but I had 2 little kids and I had a mission. But nobody should have to live like that, where they can't be honest about what they're going through. And that's why I speak up.
We only got a few more minutes, and I appreciate your time. But, talk about what it's like to have a person in your life who loves you unconditionally, gives you 2 children. I've met your phenomenal better half. And what is it like for those who don't understand? What has that been like for you as a Black male to have a wife that you love, trust, and can share anything about?
I tell people all the time, and I tell this all the time publicly, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be where I am today. But I'm also one of those folks who say, look, we'll be married 38 years next month, but you also got to marry the right person. We married each other, and we couldn't stand each other in high school. Okay. So this ain't like some love story from high school. We couldn't stand each other in high school. We dated off and on, and, for 7 years, and then we got married at 26. But we were always good friends. And I always tell somebody, it ain't just about love. You got to like them. It's got to be like your road dog. I would hang with my wife if we weren't married, if we weren't dating. And when you can do that, you'll have some. But the other thing that's important, when I went through my emotional breakdown and shared that with her, two things happen in those situations in relationship. The person either runs from you or to you. She ran to me. She's like, we're in this together. I've done it for her in different things, and you can't beat it, but we also allow each other to be who we are. But the important thing about entrepreneurship, I never had a financial requirement for her. She didn't like, I got to have this, I got to have that. She's like, look, hey, we broke, we're struggling. She never complained. She went to nursing school, came an RN, so we could have some steady income. We just decided we were all in. But we also made a decision when we first got married that if either one of us decide we want out, don't sneak, don't cheat. Let's just go our separate ways, because life's too short to be miserable. So I'm not telling people stay in a bad relationship either. But if you find the right one, there ain't nothing better what you can't do, especially when you can share with each other everything.
Well, you know, we're going to have to do this again. Just want to thank you for all that you give the community, your truth, because not often do we have opportunities to hear truth. And thanks to your granddad for getting on that boat and making that journey so that we could actually have CD Moody and his commitment to this community. So I want to thank you for having us and sharing your truth with us, Brother Moody, because it means the world for us to understand that not only in business, but in life, you can be successful, move through the trauma and the pain to actually be rewarded with triumph of understanding that your spirit and love is what you can give, and it's given back to you. So thank you so much for coming on A Seat at the Table.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'll tell you this real quick. I took my dad in 2008 to where my grandfather came from because he had never been there. We walking around there, man, it's hot. I mean, I whispered to my daddy, I said, man, I'm so glad Papa got on that boat and came on over. So I'm thankful too that he got on there, because I've had a great life and looking forward to more.
Super. Well, we'll see you again. We got to bring you out. And clearly we know that you're a leader in our community, but thanks so much. Give my best to the wife, and I'm really proud of everything you do. We got to do a story on your daughter so we can kind of highlight what she's doing as part of the Pulling Out family. All right.
All right. Thanks so much. And also, I got a son in IT, Morehouse, man. So both of them.
What? All right. Well, you do not have to be in the streets, but you do have to be in struggle. This is Munson Steve. We'll see you tomorrow night with more. This has been David Moody, Moody Construction, one of the best moguls, but one of the best brothers of truth in this business world. We love you. We appreciate you, brother.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.